A while back on Twitter, one of my followers said that to him the Fantastic Four always seemed like a B-grade version of the Avengers. This didn't sit right with me considering how the Fantastic Four were Marvel's very first superhero team. After this conversation, I started thinking about how people didn't know why the Fantastic Four are an important group, not just to Marvel Comics either, but to the entire comic book industry. Without the Fantastic Four, comic books as we know them would not exist. With that in mind, I decided to make this video to break down the importance of the Fantastic Four. What's going on, people? Welcome to the Comic Zone. Tony here with the first video in the Why They're Important series. Since the Fantastic Four have been on my mind a lot lately, check out my video review to hear my thoughts on it. And due to the Twitter conversation I talked about during the intro, I decided to dedicate this first video to Marvel's first family. Now, this won't be a complete breakdown of the history of the team. Instead, just like the title of the series says, I'll be talking about why the Fantastic Four are important. So like I said before, the Fantastic Four, not the Avengers, were Marvel's very first superhero team. The Fantastic Four came out in 1961 while the Avengers assembled in 1964. Yeah, I know that the All-Winter Squad came out 15 years before the Fantastic Four, but that was Timely Comics, not Marvel Comics as they would eventually be called. What made the Fantastic Four different from the Justice League of America was that the team was actually written like real people. As many may know, Stan Lee was about to quit the comic book industry in 1961 after being in it for about 40 years. When he was given the assignment of creating a team by his editor Martin Goodman, he decided to write a book the way he wanted to because he was going to be leaving comics anyway. At the time, heroes got along with each other. They all played nice. Not the Fantastic Four. They bickered with each other over small and big things. They dealt with problems that other heroes didn't have to, like not having enough money to pay the rent. They also talked like regular people and used a lot of slang, especially our ever-loving blue-eyed pal, The Thing. This sort of stuff would be more realized by Spider-Man, but the Fantastic Four laid the foundation for the grounded heroes we all know and love today. Even though Reed Richards and his then-girlfriend Susan Storm were kind of your typical sort of heroes, Benjamin Grimm and Johnny Storm were not. Back in those days, teenage heroes were just sidekicks. They weren't real heroes of their own. Spider-Man gets all the credit for being the first teenage superhero, but that honor actually goes to our boy Johnny Storm. He was on a team of adults, but he wasn't anybody's sidekick. He even had his own feature in Strange Tales, well before Spider-Man had his own book. Then of course we have The Thing. Right now we're all used to the brooding heroes who hate what they are. But Thing was the first hero who had a real deep sense of self-loathing. Yes, he'd be throwing around quippy one-liners while beating the shit out of bad guys, but during the quieter moments, Grimm did not like himself. This was unheard of back in the 60s and people really gravitated towards that. This goes back to the team being more realistic. Why would anyone honestly be happy living life as a giant rock monster? Okay, maybe one or two people out there would like that, but the majority wouldn't. I should point out though that even though Reed and Susan weren't as loud or as short-tempered as their teammates, they were different in the fact that as a couple, they got into a lot of arguments with each other. These fights usually had Susan feeling neglected because Reed was ignoring her because of whatever science experiment he was cooking up at the time. Some of the stuff reads kind of silly now, but this was probably the most realistic portrayal of a superhero couple in comics at the time. Okay, so here's the cover of the Fantastic Four #1. Do you notice something missing from the team? Something that's a prerequisite for superheroes? That's right, costumes. The Fantastic Four didn't have costumes in the beginning. However, this was the main thing fans asked about during those first two issues. Stan Lee didn't actually want the team to have typical superhero costumes, so instead he had Jack Kirby design uniforms for them. This way they have costumes without having costumes. This of course would pave the way for the X-Men to also wear uniforms instead of costumes. Another superhero staple that the Fantastic Four ditched were secret identities. Secret identities and superheroes went hand in hand back in the day, but the Fantastic Four books showed that a hero can do his heroing without a secret identity. I guess it also helps when the family members you would want to protect from villains that know your identity also have superpowers. But I digress. Nowadays, we're used to superheroes fighting against each other, but this wasn't something that ever happened before the Fantastic Four. Whenever superheroes got together, they'd happily cooperate to stop the bad guys. The Fantastic Four would always fight each other, so what do you think happened when they met another Marvel hero? The groundwork for how all modern hero versus hero fights happened when Thing fought against the Incredible Hulk in Fantastic Four #12. The now worn out formula of heroes meet, have a misunderstanding, fight in a decisive battle, put their differences aside to stop the bad guy, and depart vowing to have a rematch was first seen in Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four would also see the very first super villain team up in Marvel history when Dr. Doom tricked Namor the Submariner into attacking the team. Let me not forget to mention that Namor, another key player in Marvel, was brought back from the golden age of comics in the pages of Fantastic Four. Alright, if we're going to talk about how important the Fantastic Four are, then we can't forget how the series introduced the very first black superhero into mainstream American comic books. I'm talking about none other than the Black Panther, who made his debut in Fantastic Four number 52. I could probably do a whole video on why Black Panther is important, not just to Marvel, but all of comics. His significance cannot be understated. He wasn't a token character, he was the king of a mighty African nation, and he went on to become one of the premier characters in the Marvel Universe and an icon for minority comic book fans everywhere. A lot of the cosmic stories and characters that you see in Marvel Comics even today made their debut in Fantastic Four. The Skrulls, the Kree, Ronan the Accuser, Silver Surfer, Galactus, the Watcher, Annihilus, the Negative Zone, the Inhumans. All of these started in the pages of the Fantastic Four. Since the team were explorers first and superheroes second, their books dealt with a lot of really trippy ideas and with discovering new and bizarre worlds and alien races. The series set the foundation for the cosmic side of Marvel Comics, and its wild concepts have been a huge influence on many comic book writers and fiction authors. And the most important reason the Fantastic Four are important is that they saved Marvel Comics. By the 1960s, Marvel was ready to close down its doors. This is one of the reasons why Stan Lee was ready to quit, and why, when given the assignment to create a superhero team, decided to just write whatever the hell he wanted, because the worst that could happen to him was that he'd be fired. Because the Fantastic Four were so different from other comics, the book flew off shelves and prevented Marvel's demise. Of course, because of this, we eventually got all the other classic characters Marvel's known for, like the Incredible Hulk, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Uncanny X-Men, the Avengers, Thor, Daredevil, and so on. If not for the Fantastic Four, there would be no Marvel Comics, and the comic book industry as we know it today would be a completely different place. Alright guys, so there you have it. That's why the Fantastic Four are important, not just to Marvel Comics, but to the industry as a whole. I hope this video helped you understand why Marvel's first family deserves more respect and recognition, and maybe helped you appreciate them a little more too. Once again, I was Tony Polanco, and I'll see you next time on The Comic Zone.